Hello, my name is Ben Cook and today I'm going to be talking you through the new email builder. To be able to access the builder, we need to first of all come into the administration area. Now you can access the builder in one of two ways. You can either come into the module where you're going to be creating the emails, in most cases user migrations, and then come into email templates, and you can see all of your templates in here. Alternatively, you can come into the root of administration and then this area, PS scripts, emails and buttons, and that will show you the same thing. You can turn off your scripts and buttons, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to see all of the different modules, including the project at the top here, Cloud 2025. So as I said, most emails will be based on user migrations because we're going to be sending these things to people. So in here I get to see all these different categories, and I've been playing with a few templates in here which you can see. Before we go into those, I just want to briefly show you the wrapper that we've got in here. So under the project level, in internal, we've got this default email wrapper, and we will touch on that briefly when we come into the editor. Okay, let's go into the editor now. So if I come into this category demo and click here to add a new item, and I'm just going to call this training, and the subject can be project update. One thing to note when you create emails in version 15 and higher is by default they will be an advanced email, so it's got this checkbox here. If I save that, I will be able to go into that editor with this button here. So that takes me into this new style editor or email builder. However, if I go to one of my old emails or one of the built-in emails, so if we go to the user validation survey, look at the request email, in fact all of the emails in here, none of them are the advanced email. That means they're all using the legacy editor. And if I have a look at what that is, it's this one here, which you may be familiar with. So this is the old style email editor. And notice there is a slightly different icon here as well. So I'm going to come into my demo category and back to that training one I created a moment ago. To go into the editor, I click on this button. And a couple of things to talk about before we start adding content. The first is this reset menu up here is handy. You can either load up an example template, that's an example there, or various other options, including you've got a full history of your previous saves. So I'm going to revert to the blank email in there. The wrapper that I touched on earlier, we can set that in here if we like. Again, I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but just so you're aware, you can use email wrappers. The last thing to talk about is the email layout down here. So we'll have various panels on the right here. The bottom one is called email layout, and this is where you set up global parameters such as the width of the email, padding, border, and so on. And we will touch on these later on. The next thing to talk about are layout rows. You drag these into the main area to add them. And I've added a 2-cell layout row here, and you can see the 2 cells here. And you have some control over those. For example, you can change the width, so I can make this cell wider or narrower. And this is all based on it being 12 units wide in total. So the smallest unit it can be is 1, which looks like that, and then this one is 11. If you want to add or remove elements, you can do it with these buttons here. So I can add an element, a second element there, so I've got 4 in total now. And again, I can make these wider. And then you've got your UI elements. So those are the actual content. It could be something like a title, so I can drag that in, paragraph, a button, something else like an image. That's how you add content in there. And I can add more of these, and I can move them around. So if I need to change the position of things, I can drag and drop like that. If I want to remove a single cell, I grab the cell and drag it down here, and that removes the contents from the cell. And again, I can remove the contents from that cell And the same with these. If I want to remove the entire row, I drag from the right here, and that will remove the entire row. Okay, so that's a few of the basics. So I've now just got a single layout row with one cell in here. So how do we do something like add an image? Well, what we do is we can drag the image into that layout row, and then we need to either give it a URL, or we can use one of the uploaded images in the project resources, or I can upload a new image, and I'm going to do that now. So if I hit the button, and I've got this 700 pixel wide image in here, what it says down the bottom is the image has been uploaded and the new image keyword is available. How do I use that? Well, I right click in here, and then I've got this keywords menu, and I'm now looking for the name of my 700 pixel image there. It looks like I've added it twice, so I'll add that second one there. And I can add things like alternative text and a link if I want. Now if I save that, we can go in and take a look at a preview of this. We can hit the preview email either in the browser or the mail client. It's a lot faster to do it in the browser, but it is less reliable in terms of consistency. So there we go, there is my preview. I'm just going to close these other two tabs down. I've got my single preview now, and we'll come back into that. And each time you make a change, you can just refresh this window. So it's really quick to take a quick look at how that email's looking. Now, one thing I did notice is the image isn't quite wide enough. I'd like this image to fill the whole of the email. So I'm going to change the width. The way I do that is I select it, and I'm going to the right hand side now. I'm going to go to the UI element style, and I'm going to up this to 100. So it's 100%, and I just hit save. And if I drop back into my browser, reload that, you can see that's now full width. And I can make changes like put a corner radius on it. So maybe if I put 15 on that, again, save and reload. And now I've got some corners on this. Let's now go ahead and add some content. So I think the first thing I'll do is add a title. Now there's a bit of a shortcut. You don't have to add the layout row and the UI element. You can just drag up the title, and that will create the layout row automatically. And then I've got my new title. I'm going to change the text in here. So I'm going to select that and call it Project Update. Now you can see on the right I've got a few controls over this particular title. So maybe I want my font to be regular. I might want to change the spacing or the alignment, say make that central, or the text color or the font. So all sorts of controls I can make in here. It's nice if you just save these and take a look at the preview. And there we go. One thing I didn't mention about this is the bit of text that you'll always see at the top here is the email subject. So that's not part of the content, that's just the subject. Next up, what I think we'll do is we'll have some text. So I'm just going to grab my paragraph and drag that up here. And again, we've got all sorts of controls over the style of that particular bit of text. Now I do have some text in my clipboard which I'm going to paste in there, and again I can press save and preview that. Great, that's looking good, but I can't help feel this title needs a bit of space around it, so it's always going to be a bit of trial and error. I want some padding in here, so actually maybe what I can do is in the cell style I can add my padding. So we can either do it to all four sides, or I can do it individually. I think I'm just going to do it to all four sides. Not entirely sure what I need, but let's try 15. You can see it does do an update in the UI here, and also if I refresh this, we've got a bit of space around it. So that looks much better. The main text looks a little bit close together again, so I might change my line spacing. So I select that particular cell, and I can adjust my line height here. So I'm going to change that to 2. And that's looking much better to me. What I'd also like in here is a button to take them to the project dashboard. So I'm going to drag the button in there, and you can see it's got the button, and I'm going to change the text. And I'm going to change the color because I don't think that's going to work. And I'll change that to this color here, and my text can be dark, and then maybe I'll have a thin border going around it. So again, something like that. And I don't want this to be a full width button, so maybe 30%. Let's give that a try. So back to my preview. That looks pretty good. I don't like the way it's wrapping the text, so maybe I'll try 35. That looks much better. Okay, I'm happy with that, but I do want some padding underneath it, so let's have a look at padding. There we go, that looks better. Next, I'm going to put in a divider. And finally, some contact information at the bottom for the project team. So again, that's going to be a paragraph. And I've got something in here to add. So I'm going to paste that in. And I think with this one, I'm going to put the text in different color. I think I'll have it central. And I'd like to make it italic, so that's a right click, formatting italic, and I think I'll make it smaller, maybe 12, and I'd like to put the email in. Now this is interesting. If I just make up an email address, so projectteam@mycorp.com, if I save that and preview it, it's not going to be an email link, but I know that with Markdown I can do it very simply by putting a angle bracket around it, and that will turn it into an email address. I do need to enable Markdown though, so if you want Markdown you have to toggle that, save the changes, and then I should be able to refresh that, and there we go. I've got my email link, I've got my divider, and that's looking pretty good. I think the only other thing I might want is an outline border around the whole email, so that is down the bottom here in the email layout. So border thickness 1, I think, and the border color, I think I'll pick one of these colors here, and let's have a look. I think I might need to adjust my padding, but let's just see how it's looking. Yeah, that looks nice. I think I do need a bit of padding though, that's a bit too close up at the top there. So I'm just going to try 20 on all of them and see how that looks. Much better. Okay, I'm happy with that. I can test my button here. So if I click that, that should open up a particular URL. That's all looking good. So that hopefully gives you an overview on how to build the email. The other thing you might want to do is send an actual email with that content, and I would do that with this preview option here, and that sent that off. Notice that it pre-populates the user ID, the user migration ID in here if just a random user, but you can put in a different ID if you need to. I'll give that a minute and we'll wait for that to come in. Great, and there we can see the emails come in and the formatting all looks good. Hopefully that's been useful. If you need more information, please do check the support site.